everyone. Welcome to The Balancing Act. I'm Olga Villaverde.
And I'm Amber Milt. Hey, Olga, did you ever see Phantom of the Opera?
Oh, absolutely. That is just one of my favorites.
Oh,
amazing.
The Phantom, Christine. Well, then you're going to love today's show because we're actually going behind the scenes of the sequel.
Oh.
I know. Love Never Dies. It has all the drama, romance, intrigue, and of course, that amazing music that only Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber and his team can deliver.
I can't wait. Okay, so that's going to be fantastic. Also, switching gears here, really important information. 2 important health stories to talk about today.
That's right. We've got one behind the mystery as we feature another rare, undiagnosed illness and hear one woman's struggle to get help.
Plus a woman's guide to stroke risk and prevention.
News we can all use. The Balancing Act starts right now.
Broadway Balances America, brought to you by Broadway Across America, bringing the best of Broadway to a city near you.
Time now for Broadway Balances America, our series that takes you behind the scenes of some of the most beloved Broadway musicals as they appear across the country and into your local theaters. Today, Love Never Dies.
It never dies. And this spellbinding sequel to The Phantom of the Opera, Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber and his team have once again created a beautiful new musical that's won audiences around the globe over, and now it's coming to our shores. Take a look. Set 10 years after The Phantom of the Opera, the greatest love story of all time continues in New York City around 1907. Amongst the joy rides and freak shows of Coney Island, the Phantom has escaped from Paris and has finally found a place for himself.
We're in a new kind of this magical fairground that the Phantom set himself up in, and the problem, unsurprisingly, is that he just can't get Christine out of his head.
Now, in this new world of Coney Island, the Phantom is missing his greatest love and muse, the beautiful Christine Daae. You're playing this iconic role, Christine Daae. For people who might not be familiar with the story of Love Never Dies, can you elaborate on where we find Christine when the show opens?
We find out that she has a son. She and Raoul are indeed still married. We also find her traveling to the United States from Europe. We find out that she has become this gigantic super opera star.
Something this very talented soprano identifies with.
I'm falling in love with Christine, which is very magical as an actor, because as you begin to put on the skin of this new character, if you love her, even if you don't agree with all the decisions.
Right.
But I know what it's like to be torn between someone that you feel you should be with and then someone that just brings out this primal, emotional side of you. So it was all an empty lie.
Christine is now coming to America to pursue her career while balancing being a wife and mother, something many women can relate to.
She is a very strong woman. She is making the money in their relationship. So right there, that's an interesting color to who she is as a person. And she's doing it all with grace and finesse.
And the graceful Christine has certainly remained at the forefront of the Phantom's mind.
I think he's been sort of monitoring or you know, obviously thinking about her every day for those 10 years. He's not as strong as he was. Things have changed for him too, and he has matured and grown up. He does hope that things can be different this time round.
One thing that hasn't changed is the chemistry between the Phantom and Christine.
It's just an immediate stage chemistry. Part of it, again, is like the openness, and he's so nice and so kind. You feel safe immediately to go somewhere with someone. You trust them.
We have the opportunity to dig further. To go deeper into their lives, accommodating different things that have happened to them over that time. So from a character perspective, we really do have an opportunity for more. If you love these characters, you get to see them in a different situation and a different period of their lives.
Andrew Lloyd Webber's beautiful music truly underscores the entire production.
The vocals are stunning, and they soar, and I think that they transport people.
My dear old friend, your dear old friend. My dear Christine.
the emotion and the passion that happens vocally. The orchestrations are rich and dense and support the drama completely. And then there are all the musical references, the hidden references to Phantom that you can find in it. So it's very exciting. And whether someone is musically trained or not musically trained, whether one has ever been to a musical before, his vocal writing, his orchestral writing are accessible.
The staging, the tone, and the feel are also brought to life with the help of Simone Salt.
Yes, it's a love story between Christine and Phantom. However, the responsibility for us is to create and invite the audience along into this world that is now based in Coney Island. So it is a huge ensemble piece, and that's very, very much brought to the forefront in numbers. Like at the top of the show, we have Coney Island, so that's the invite into the big top.
And with 8 shows a week, the physical demands are high.
This here, this is my voice, this is my instrument. Your body is your temple.
Yeah.
So you must eat very healthily. Fruits, vegetables, you know, good kinds of protein.
Devil take the hindmost.
You've got to keep in good shape, obviously. The better shape you are, the better equipped you are to deal with the rehearsals and then the rigorous schedule of performing every night. So you just have to be in as good a shape physically and vocally as you can.
While Webber felt Phantom was somewhat of a cliffhanger, this story fully realizes the characters.
The celebration of difference, you know, it really is looking at the value of an individual. A big progression on that idea is coming to terms and accepting who you are as a person. It's very honest, very courageous writing, actually, and the characters are really put to the test. So it's great to see the next phase for them in terms of how love evolves.
As with any great love story, the plot does have its twists, but one thing is certain: Love Never Dies is beautiful and haunting from start to finish.
It has yet to actually come to the country in which it's set, so I'm really hoping that people will embrace it, that will be another level, apart from people's love of the Phantom of the Opera and the original and the kind of natural curiosity to see what we might be conjecturing the end of the story to be.
I want them to feel love. I want them to feel pain.
You would know the pain I've known.
Heartbreak, hope. I want them to have a human experience when they come to the show.
The North American tour of Love Never Dies is coming soon to a theater near you. Check out Broadway Across America, Broadway Balances America, or of course you can always go to our website, thebalancingact.com, for all the show information, tour dates, and more.
It can happen for minutes to hours or even last for days. Temporary episodes of severe weakness or paralysis, most often in your arms or legs. On today's Behind the Mystery, we're going to talk about a rare genetic condition called primary periodic paralysis, or PPP. So rare, in fact, that it affects 5,000 to 6,000 individuals in the U.S. Here to help us bring awareness about this disease is neurologist and professor of physiology at UCLA, Dr. Steve Cannon, who has done a great deal of medical research on primary periodic paralysis. Also joining us today is Linda Feld, patient advocate and vice president of the Periodic Paralysis Association. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Doctor, let me start with you. What exactly is PPP? It sounds scary.
Yeah. Well, the periodic paralyses are a group of rare inherited disorders that cause temporary episodes of severe muscle weakness or even paralysis. And in the most common forms of this condition, these episodes are triggered by changes in the potassium level in the blood. So for hypokalemic periodic paralysis, the potassium level is low in the blood during an attack, whereas in hyperkalemic periodic paralysis, the potassium is high during an attack. Now, these patients can have symptoms even between attacks where there's a lingering feeling of fatigue, weakness, and clumsiness. So it's more than just these episodic attacks, and there can be variations from patient to patient. So all races are affected, both men and women. The onset is usually in late childhood, certainly by age 20. And just about any muscle in the body can be affected. So the legs, arms, difficulty standing, sitting. And unfortunately for some, later on in the course of the illness, there can be fixed permanent weakness, especially of the legs.
Doctor, do we know why this happens to people?
The problem resides in the muscle itself, so there's nothing wrong with the nerve that's bringing the information from the brain. This all occurs through electrical signaling that controls the regulation of your heart or tells muscles when to contract, which occurs by having salts like sodium or potassium move in and out of the cells. And this occurs through microscopic little pores or so-called ion channels, and it's mutations of ion channel genes that causes periodic paralysis.
Linda, let me bring you in now to the conversation. I think you went through most of your life undiagnosed, which I just can't imagine how difficult that must have been. So can you share with us what it was like growing up?
As a child, you're pretty much in the hands of your parents. Your parents are taking care of you. You know that maybe you have something wrong because you aren't as good an athlete as some of the other children in school.
And you weren't.
And I wasn't. I was always the last one picked for a team. When I reached high school, I started to realize that there really was something different. And it came to light one day specifically when we had a fire drill in school. And the fire alarm went off and everybody else got up and ran out of the room, and I tried to get up out of my chair and I was stuck. I literally couldn't stand up. And everybody went out. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my word. First I thought I might get in trouble with the teacher, but then—
And you were trying to.
I was trying very hard to get up. And they all just came back into the room, and I realized, wow, I'm having one of these quote unquote attacks. But by the time class was over, the potassium had started to right itself in my body. I was able to make it to the nurse's office, and my parents came and picked me up.
Doctor, why is this so difficult to diagnose?
The symptoms come and go, and so by the time the patient comes to medical attention, they might look completely normal to the physician, or from lack of familiarity with the condition, many attribute those symptoms to things like emotional stress, psychiatric disorders, or cardiovascular problems. So it's really a problem of recognition itself. Performing certain tests can help establish a diagnosis of periodic paralysis or rule out other conditions. For example, blood tests can look for potassium levels or electrical tests of muscle, and now, most importantly, the availability of genetic testing. It's important to realize that while finding a mutant gene associated with periodic paralysis is very informative, but that if there's no mutation found, it's still an open question and periodic paralysis remains a possibility.
Linda, you've had obviously a very difficult journey until finally getting a diagnosis. In fact, you say that it took 100 years. I know you're not 100, but what do you mean by that?
Well, I know that this disease was passed genetically through my family, and I have tried tracing this disease back through genealogy and medical records that I've collected as far back as my great-grandfather.
Really?
And I knew that he came from Scotland and that he worked for the state of Connecticut, and he had to be carried up the stairs to go to work every day. So I knew that he had some form of the disease. My grandmother was mildly affected. My father was in a wheelchair. He actually died of complications due to periodic paralysis. And that pushed me towards trying to find out more about this disease and help my sister and myself, who both have the disease. So it was
kind of solved the puzzle.
It solved a big puzzle for me, big puzzle.
Which probably brought some peace of mind.
It did.
As well.
It did.
Doctor, how is this disease treated?
Well, it's important for the individual to recognize his or her trigger factors and then work with the medical team to learn how to minimize and avoid those events. In addition to these lifestyle changes, medications are now available to help with an ongoing attack that's already started, or to also prevent or reduce the severity of attacks from even coming.
And doctor, what triggers this disease?
Well, most commonly, exercise is a trigger.
Really?
And surprisingly, the episode comes when you stop to rest after exercise. But in addition, it can be triggered by the amount of potassium in the diet, or carbohydrates, fasting, or even cool temperatures.
Linda, how are you today? You look fantastic.
Thank you very
Now that you
much.
know and you've become an advocate, how is Linda doing?
I think I'm doing very well.
I think you're doing great.
There are days when I don't feel as well as I do on other days, but I have really tried to make my life centered around periodic paralysis at this point. I'm vice president of the Periodic Paralysis Association, And I spend a great deal of my time helping other people who have periodic paralysis try to find the answers to their disease, because the Periodic Paralysis Association believes that no one should be alone, that everyone should have an advocate for them within this disease.
I love this woman, and she, along with you, creating that awareness, which is so important, Doctor, and especially for the future, correct?
Yeah, so I think raising awareness is very important so that patients don't have to needlessly put up with these episodes and not be able to get any assistance. It's also important to raise awareness in the medical community. When these individuals come to the emergency room, oftentimes there's confusion on what the best approach is to manage them. We also think that if we can reduce the frequency and severity of attacks, they can avoid some of the later complications of permanent weakness.
The sooner we get to it, the better the outcome.
Absolutely. And I must say, the future is brighter now. Genetic testing is widely available. Advances in understanding the science is giving us clues at new treatment opportunities. And finally, I'd say that there's a tremendous growth in the community through social media, like the Periodic Paralysis Association, which is bringing patients and caregivers together and really creating a sense of community for these patients.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the information. And Linda, thank you.
Oh, thank you for
so
having
much
us.
for being such an inspiration to others who are watching here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And if you'd like more information about uncovering periodic paralysis, a genetic testing program for primary periodic paralysis offered by Strongbridge Biopharma, you can visit uncoveringperiodicparalysis.com. And for more information about periodic paralysis and resources we've discussed today, you can visit periodicparalysis.org or hkpp.org and strongbridgebio.com. And as always, you can find out more on our website, thebalancingact.com. Did you know that every 4 minutes someone dies of a stroke? Every 4 minutes. 80% of strokes are preventable and no one is immune. So do I have your attention this morning? Here to educate us about the risk factors associated with strokes and how to prevent them, so important, is Dr. Ralph Sacco, former president and spokesperson at the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association, and professor and chairman of neurology at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. Good morning and welcome back.
Good morning, glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here because this is so important to talk about. We're going to talk about risk factors and that statistic, 80% preventable. I mean, you can do things, but first, doctor, I mean, everybody hears out there a stroke, and they hear it all the time. My mom had a stroke, my grandmother. What exactly happens?
So a stroke occurs when there's a disease or a problem with an artery supplying or within the brain. And this artery can get blocked, and then there's lack of blood flow and nutrients to the brain, or it can rupture and bleed in the brain. And that causes problems with the brain. When we have problems with the brain, we have problems with our body. A stroke occurs basically when arteries in the brain have problems.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there are different types of strokes?
Well, that's right. Not all strokes are the same.
Correct.
The majority of strokes are blockages of arteries, either tiny arteries, larger arteries that get hardening of the arteries, or a little clot breaks off and then blocks an artery in the brain. But then there are some strokes that are bleeding strokes, and then there are some strokes that are warning strokes, that we call transient ischemic attacks or mini strokes. And then unfortunately, there are many strokes called cryptogenic, strokes of undetermined cause, where we do everything we can and we still can't figure out what causes them.
And it's important to note that people sometimes think, oh, older people have strokes or men are more likely to have strokes. Anyone can, right?
Right. Stroke can happen at any age. In fact, there's some really alarming statistics. 18 to 34-year-olds, millennials, are seeing an increase in the number of strokes.
18 to 34.
18 to 34.
Men
it can
and
happen
women?
Women actually die and are disabled by stroke more than men each year, and African Americans and Latinos are at a much greater risk for stroke.
So what are steps that we can do, doctor, to help prevent it, since we just realized that 80% are preventable? What can we do?
Right. There's many things you can do. First of all, if you've had a stroke, we need to do everything we can to prevent another stroke.
Of course.
Regardless, everyone needs to follow the American Heart Association Life Simple 7. There are 7 key factors. 3 of them are your numbers: blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose, blood sugar, diabetes. We know we can treat these things with medications. We can also do behavioral modifications.
And so easy to detect.
And easy to detect, simple blood tests, see your doctor, get your blood pressure checked.
And that's it.
4 of them are behaviors: never smoke, be physically active. We need to get out there and walk, run, do some exercise, make sure our weight is under control, and most importantly, diet. follow the American Heart Association healthy diet. There's so much we can do with diet to keep our blood pressure, get our weight down, get our cholesterol and our blood glucose under control.
And there's so much we can do if someone is having a stroke, and the signs are there. You have a great acronym that can help anyone out there detect it. What is it?
That's right. FAST. F-A-S-T.
Break it down.
F for face. If you have drooping of your face, you ask someone to smile and they have one side of their face isn't working as well. A for arm. If their arm is drooping or their one side of the body is weak. S for speech. Slurring of the speech or trouble getting words out. And T, critical, time. Time is brain. Every minute we delay treatment, brain cells die irreversibly. Call 911 urgently. F-A-S-T. FAST. Call 911 urgently if you see these symptoms.
And making that call, even seconds too late, can make a difference, right?
It can make a huge
We're
difference.
talking death sometimes.
Death, disability. Now there's so much more we can do if you get urgent attention, drugs and devices to really change your outcome with a stroke. But you got to call 911. It has to be an urgent attention. FAST is important.
And the name is just so perfect. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Great to
Appreciate
see
your
you,
time.
Olga.
You come back again. And to learn more about stroke prevention, go to strokeassociation.org. That's strokeassociation.org, or go to our website, thebalancingact.com. FAST.
Well, you know what? I feel like we started our day with a lot of things about the heart.
We did.
Heart health.
Affairs about the heart.
Oh,
love.
yeah. Love affairs.
Yes. Well, not a love affair.
Okay.
Love.
Love. And I love you. And if you want to love us, you can always visit us at Facebook. You can go to our website. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. We've got lots more there.
And that website is thebalancingact.com. By the way, I love you more.
Oh, I love you the most.
She beat me.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.